Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. Today's project is going to be a quilt as you go block design. It's something that I do every now and then when I want to speed up the process of getting some quilts out. So what I've done is I've cut a square that's 6 inches, and this will be 5.5 unfinished by the time I'm done with that. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking a pencil and I am drawing from corner to corner 1/4 of an inch away from the corner. I hope that makes sense. Let me just move that up like this. So I've got a 1/4 inch mark on one corner here down to the other, and then I've taken a pencil and I've drawn a line here. So, and then what I've done is I've collected a bunch of my strip scraps in colors that I like. So these are going to be oranges and pinks. These are actually offcuts that I bought in a scrap bag from Cotton Cuts about a year ago. So these are perfect to use because they are wide enough. I'm trying to use about 1.5 and wider pieces. I also have some offcuts that are an odd shape of triangles. So what we're going to do is, I've tried this both ways. I've tried it where you place a strip down in the center and then you work your way out. I found with that though, sometimes you end up with a bit of a spot in the center that isn't flat. So what's working the best for me is I'm doing these in 10 blocks at a time, and I'll be doing I believe it's 80 blocks to get the quilt size that I want. So what I'm doing is I'm starting with a corner, so something like this, and you want to just make sure that your edge is going to the line here, and then I'll take another strip and I'll go right sides together, and I'll do a 1/4 inch seam like this, and then this will get flipped over like that. And I'm pressing each seam as I go so that it remains nice and flat. So I'll do a few of these and then I'll show you how I'm progressing, and then we'll get into the layout options. So I'm just showing you, I've got this first strip sewn on and I'm going to add another. You want to make sure that on the longest side it's going to reach the edge here. So what I'm going to do is right side, this is actually 2 pieces of fabric. So let me move that out of the way. So what I'm going to do is right sides together like this, and then stitch it 1/4 inch and flip it over. I will cut the selvage off first just to keep it consistent. So you are, as a reminder, using that line as a reference line because we are going to be adding something to the other half of this block once we get all this part done. And I'm just going to quickly walk you over to my sewing machine, and I am using a walking foot. I am using my preferred thread, which is a 50 weight Aurifil, and I'm using a neutral color, and I'm doing it at around 2 on the stitch length. And with a walking foot, you want to remember to walk it, so don't go quickly or else you're going to run into problems or potentially break your foot. And I am back tacking, so I'm doing 1 reverse stitch at the beginning and the end of each seam just to keep everything locked in place. With these 3 in place, I found a triangle that's going to work. So again, this is really good at using up various scraps. I have bags of pinks and of oranges. And then I also have a bag with different strip sizes in it. So that's what I'm drawing from for this. So again, right sides together here. If it's wonky, I'm trying to keep it a little bit straight if I can. You don't have to, so 1/4 inch seam, flip it over. If you don't want to do this quilt as you go, you could also do this on paper by drawing it out. My starting square is 6 inches. Because I'm doing it on batting, it is shrinking up, so I'm going to trim them all down to 5.5. You can also do it on a piece of muslin or sheeting, and again by drawing from corner to corner. 1/4 inch. That's going to give you your extra seam once we start working on this other half. So those are a couple suggestions. So let me get on with this and then I'll be back to show you what we do next. So just to show you a few of the first groups of blocks I've done. So this one has it going all the way across, and I did start with a triangle here and a triangle here. This would be perfect to use those extra half square triangle cutoffs. Yes, I do save them in a bag. And this is what the back would be looking like. So just straight seams. And what I'll do is once I've got the other half on here, then I'll trim this up to the 5.5 inches that I'm doing these at. So this one started with the smaller triangle. And as long as your bottom is going to be within your trim area, you're going to be fine. So some of these overhang more than others. And just the different color combinations that I'm using. Any that are really light, I'm trying to keep them in the center because as you see, once the pattern unfolds, if they're on the side, then you kind of lose that contrast. This one is a smaller, lighter one. I think that'll still work by the time it's cut down, but if it was bigger, I wouldn't use it there. And then the last one here. So let me carry on and I'll join you back here. So I timed myself. It took about 20-25 minutes to do 8 blocks. And this is just the 1/2 as I've explained. And I'm just going to rough cut some of this extra fabric off. So when I go to trim it up, it's easier to do. These will each be trimmed down to 5.5 inches once I'm done putting all these pieces. Some of these strips are quite large, so I can use them on the next group that I'm going to be doing. Okay, so I now have all the blocks done on the half using the scrap. So I've been trying to figure out what to do with the second half. I could add strips going this way to finish it off, which I thought about. But I was given a bunch of yardage with these cute cats on it. So what I did is I cut 6.5 inch squares, and then I took them and I cut them diagonally to create triangles. So what you're going to do is go right sides together like this, and you're going to lay this on your 1/4 inch ending mark like this, and then sew across like that, and then when you flip it over, it'll end up being like this. So what I've done is I've actually completed one to give you an idea of what it looks like. So I flipped it over, I've given it a bit of a press, and then I decided to top stitch it for quilting because this is a quilt as you go. So I've decided just to go a seam from the joining seam down, and then I'm just kind of echoing the seams on the opposite side of the block. So these will vary from block to block. You could choose to do a random design or do stripes. It's totally up to you. So once these are all done, I have a really neat way of laying these out. These will all measure 6 inches, so it'll end up being 5.5 inches once they're sewn into the block. I will go along and square these all up, so I'll be taking these corners off. So come back to the next video next week and I'll show you how to lay this out in a couple options. I think you'll really like it. So until next time, sew safely and sew with Debee. Bye for now and have a great day.